Police have tentatively identified the body of a man found dead in Humboldt Park this morning.
This issue has been a silent issue for far too long in this country. And we go back and we think every day you read a headline about a young man or young woman getting killed. Then you think about our history when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King, and Robert Kennedy. And that was up to 68. And you think about, what did we learn? We turned our back on common sense gun laws in America. And we continually, unfortunately, keep shooting one another on a daily basis.
This is bullshit. The second kid.
We all know the unfortunate facts. In 1 year, on average, more than 100,000 people in America are shot, and many are killed or seriously injured with a gun. If reasonable local laws could have prevented even one of these needless deaths or injuries, it would have been important. Instead, the violence, unfortunately, continues day after day.
The truth of the matter is, for nearly 50 years, Chicago has been the hallmark city of gun control thanks to the policy decisions of well-protected and disconnected politicians. And he's right about one thing. The violence continues day after day after day. I'm slightly embarrassed to say that this is my first time in Chicago. Along with New York and LA, they're cities people expect you to go to early in life. I've always heard great and horrible things about the city. Some people can never stop telling the world how awesome it is. Then there are those people who refer to it as Chirac and suggest that I pack a bulletproof vest and bring extra magazine. I've long known of the city's history of gun control and violence, so my expectations for the trip were all over the place. What's the culture like towards firearms for Black people in Chicago?
It's mixed, from people who say, I'm okay with people owning guns for protection, to those who are radically against any human being on the face of the earth owning firearms.
On the national stage with the conversation, they paint the picture that most Black people are anti-gun. But yet here we are in the heart of Chicago, and you're telling me the opinions are all over the place.
All over.
All over the place, right? And so I think that is another thing that I've always had a problem with, the way that, you know, we are depicted in the media, is like we're just monolithic creatures who think one way and only one way.
Yes.
And thus, they almost try to cultivate that mentality and try to get us to only think a certain way about certain things, especially on certain issues like guns.
I think to myself that the vision of Chicago as being violent, and particularly how the media portrays us, it's like it's new when this was the seat of violence, so much violence that the actual mafia told Al Capone, man, it's too much, right? And so that was before any of us. And so it's kind of ironic that today we're portrayed the way we are in such negative light.
It's a crazy time right now, like being from Chicago. Like you said, I travel a lot. And so when I travel a lot, and I come across people and they ask me, well, Fly, Dave Jeff, Chicago, whatever. Like, man, you made it, you know? And it's crazy to think like that the world really sees Chicago as that. It is these pockets of violence, but I know in every city, in every hood, this goes on.
What gets the ratings on the news is murder and mayhem. And if you constantly saying murder and mayhem, boy, it's a good chance you're gonna become a reflection of that, bro. And then you got people always talking about, well, 93% of all African-American homicides are done by African-Americans.
Who else they gonna
I just seen homie say that on TMZ.
Who else they gonna see?
I was blown because America is segregated than a motherfucker. So if you only live around a certain motherfucker, who else you getting into it with? But if people hold up greatness, it's a good chance you'll be a reflection of that. So do I want to be like Chicago messed up, or these shorties is out they mind? Because if I do that, I'm only adding to the problem. I'm projecting the propaganda.
Yeah.
My thing is, as opposed to focusing around the problem, we need to focus on the solution and see what we can do. If everybody do their part, it's a chance that we can get led to the light. Because if the system is against us, why are we against us?
One of the issues that I kind of put on my back when I kind of started doing what I was doing, even before I did what I do with the NRA, was to challenge the perception and the narrative of black gun ownership.
It's good that you go on a platform that people say is the ops or opposition. Like, man, it's a brother on the NRA, but you ain't on there speaking no goof-ass rhetoric. You on there like, look, man, we need guns.
Here I am, sitting in Hyde Park with you.
Yes.
Business owner.
Yes.
Concealed carrier.
Sunni Muslim. Pray 5 times a day, have been to Mecca for a pilgrimage, fast in the month of Ramadan every month. That's a stereotype within itself, right?
Yeah, but yet, this is not the image that's shown, right?
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times I talk to young black men who tell me, you know, I like guns, I want to own them responsibly. I don't talk about them. They're like, I have them. I don't talk about them because it makes me look like I'm a thug or I'm some type of gangbanger. When I talk about it, at least that's the way people pretend to perceive me.
Right.
The great Malcolm X, he even said, love your brother, treat him as a brother. But the moment he try to harm you or anything you love, you gotta send him to his grave. And that's protection. That's the protection part.
One, me as a business owner, me as a husband, me as a family man, and, you know, to protect my home, to protect my stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a day and time, people are not fighting.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to be prepared. I want my family to be safe and things like that. And I want to be able to obtain it legally, get as many as I want to whatever for what's going on now and what's going on to come.
Yeah.
If we go into war, I want to be prepared for war.
I own a firearm and I own several firearms for one reason. I want to be able to protect my family in the case that I have to. I pray to God I never, ever in my life ever have to fire a firearm at another human being.
Bennett Lee is one of the founding members of the CBLs. He's a doctor now. He teaches at Northeastern University. This man said in '68 when he got locked up, it was brothers and sisters on the streets with froze and power. They was black power, they was with it. He got out in '71, '72. Brothers had perms, stacked shoes, plaques. They had the Superfly gear on.
Yeah.
They was influenced by the cinema. When the Superfly movies came out, he was like, he saw a huge shift in black culture. Same thing happened to me when I was a shorty in the 80s. New Jack City came out. Scarface came out. Menace to Society came out. Colors came out. What that did was, if you didn't know nothing about the drug game, it intrigued you. Because you wasn't thinking about the consequences, you was thinking about the reward. Because that's an ideal situation for a young man living in the crib with roaches and rats, and you seeing your mama work a job every 2 weeks, and she's still struggling. You thinking like, man, my mama going to work, my daddy dead, or he ain't around. TV could become your father. The movies could become your father, because now, as a young man, you looking for something to identify yourself with that can relate to manhood.
Instagram is the best, then it's the worst. It's good for promo, it's good for me to get that story out, me being positive and things like that, whatever. But then, on the flip side, it's also the rah-rah, the boom-boom, the fast cars, this extra jewelry, this life,
Glorification of the superficial.
That's a t-shirt. I'm using glorification of the superficial. I'm saying, like, therein, mentally, a lot of that generational, the gap in that, aren't mentally mature enough to know exactly what you just said.
Gotcha.
So the only way to get it is to go get it. The whole get rich or die trying, that song, people are living that mentality.
The number one way that anybody learns is simply social learning theory. You can go to school all day. You can read what's in the books and this and that, and you can have the teacher say right or wrong, but what you see your mother and father do, and your friends and the environment that you live in on a daily basis, that's what you're gonna normalize. And due to the fact that you normalize it, you may begin to replicate this behavior. Because if you looking at life in a certain sense and you like, yo, this is how life go. You know, my old man, he robbed people, he hustled to get money, he took care of us though. I had all the Jordans, I had all the Pellies. You're not saying nothing wrong with that. You're not thinking about the lives that was destroyed due to the fact of the way that he was getting his bread to take care of y'all. You're not looking at the drug trade as if it was something bad. Because for Christmas and Thanksgiving, this man was Santa Claus and the Pilgrims, you know what I'm saying? So you looking at it like, whoa, this is A-okay. So what we gotta do is enlighten the brothers and sisters to our history. Seen a few guys talking about ancestors is not important. Our history is not important. All we need to worry about is what's going on right now. That's the rhetoric of a damn fool. The more that you are reminded of the greatness of your ancestors, you feel invincible.
Yeah.
You feel powerful. You feel like whatever you try to accomplish or whatever it is you're trying to do, you can do it. You constantly reminded because your ancestors did it. So you don't want to have any type of relation to the greatness of your people? That's crazy, bro. That's setting you up for failure.
Where do you think the mentality of just kind of this anti-gun mentality, so to speak, where do you think it's born from in terms of Chicago as a whole? I mean, do you think it's cultural?
It is definitely cultural. I mean, when I grew up, I, for the most part, thought that the only people who had guns were criminals and the police. And there's a lot of people who think like that. And as long as you think like that, that's the only people who are going to have guns.
Yeah.
And what sense does that make? That only the police should have them? You know, I'm a former police officer, a lot of respect for law enforcement. But the reality is they can't be everywhere. People always talk about first responders. If you don't have a firearm to defend yourself, you're not getting the first responder, you're getting the cleanup crew.
Yeah.
To me, a handgun is just like a fire extinguisher, something you get, and you hope you never have to use it.
Yeah.
You hope and pray that you never have to use it. You don't go to the local home improvement store and say, oh, I can't wait to get this home.
So I can use this bad boy.
Right.
No. The weird thing is I get no other benefit whatsoever from a fire extinguisher except for its given task.
Right.
And I think people tend to undervalue the versatility of a firearm.
One thing that concerns me, particularly about the black community and owning firearms, is safety, being competent, and being able to use effectively a firearm. And I think that's one of the things that we need more of.
The people who are anti-gun, they've never touched the firearm for the most part. The vast majority have no idea. And they have no idea about any of the ownership principles of it. I mean, the safety principles that we all follow.
900 people every year die from accidents involving firearms.
Okay, yeah.
And what people don't realize is, I promise you, I'm almost positive the vast majority of those deaths could have been prevented with just simple firearm safety rules.
Absolutely.
And teaching them. So instead of cultivating a culture where people are scared of firearms, cultivate a culture of responsible firearm ownership. But when it comes to the firearm, nah, just get them out of here. We have no use for them.
Right.
Except to protect my damn life.
What's the one thing that could possibly have the biggest effect at eliminating the violence in places like Southside Chicago?
Well, immediately, I think three things. Number one, access to resources, jobs, being able to build businesses, things like that. Number two, the rebuilding of the family structure. Point blank. Education. These things, to me, I believe, are the things that would immediately turn the negative connotation of neighborhoods that are depleted or going through changes in the city of Chicago.
One of Nixon's top aides said that his #1 enemies were black people and white people that was part of the hippie culture. So what do you do when people are anti-you? We gonna ship all these industrial jobs that we got going on over to China, down to Mexico, because this is the way that we gonna save our economy. Because we gonna be able to get everything we need produced cheaper. But now you getting it from somebody else. You got all these black men that were sharecropping in the South. This is real. They were sharecropping before they came up here doing the migrations. They get up here, they working their job for like 20 years. At the steel mill, they on the assembly line, they getting money. They taking care of their family. Good ass job. And then the rug gets snatched up under their feet. And now you just be like, nah, this ain't no industrial economy no more. This a service economy. Y'all gotta get with this, you know what I'm saying? But you don't set up anything for these brothers to make a transition. Ronald Reagan was the second part of Nixon. He came in with Make America Great Again. The only thing that happened under Reagan that I can remember, crack came, mandatory drug laws came, 100 to 1. The prison population rose at an alarming rate. Reagan wasn't for us.
You have somebody who was a community organizer.
There you go.
He understood the intricacies of the conditions in certain specific areas that affected a pretty particularized group of people.
Yeah.
Right? And understood that those issues were incredibly more complex than more gun control. That should have shifted the conversation about how to deal or address with the violence in those areas. Period.
You could tell this is a place that's been forgotten. and people that have been forgotten.
And the funny thing about it is it's like the line of demarcation is conscious. It's not like it's just kind of a natural happenstance. It's like a benign neglect almost.
Mayors in Chicago had such a hard-on for guns, to bring in guns to show how evil guns are, that if they caught a guy with drugs, they tell him, you know what, we can make this drug charge go away if you can find somebody to sell us an illegal gun.
Are you serious?
I kid you not.
Why is it that these people who we depend on, we vote for, we think are smart people, can't figure out something? It's almost as if they don't want to. Personally, I believe that many of the decisions that are made to make these neighborhoods, they're political. It's purposeful. That's where I stand. There's no godly reason why our neighborhoods can't change. Our school systems can't be better. They're declining. We need to rectify and repair these systems.
But yet, here we are, 2018.
Yes.
Right? And those conditions didn't just turn up.
They did.
Like that 2
They
days
did.
ago.
They did.
All we talk about is gun control. Every lens that we look through in order to possibly do something about this is seen through the lens of gun control.
Specifically when we talk about illegal guns, it's just entirely too many guns on the street, right? But it's almost as if it's a diversionary tactic to divert people's attention from the real things that need to be done.
Look where we're going. We're just a couple minutes west.
Like I'm noticing a stark change.
Yeah.
In terms of the feel, the energy, just kind of like the upkeep, the buildings, all of that stuff, right?
Right, now look at the garbage all around here. We got boarded up buildings, stores, and people who need jobs and people who are deprived of opportunities.
But we never talk about the economics.
No.
We never talk about the economics. We always talk about how many more laws can we add? How many more laws can we do this? How many laws can we do that? We never, ever address the economics.
No.
And how are you supposed to address an underlying issue if you never actually get to the underlying issue because you keep worrying about the color of the paint?
Right.
Literally, we're talking about a house that has a ruptured foundation, and all we keep talking about is, no, we just need to paint it a different color, or we need to add more paint to it. Like, it's like, no, the foundation's messed up.
Yeah.
Right now in Chicago, we got the A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter's Museum, which teaches the young black people about black labor history. And we employ kids to come learn about their history. A. Philip Randolph, who was a regular, everyday guy. He wasn't an entertainer, he wasn't an athlete, but he had the ability to organize and bring brothers together. Yeah. And they formed the first black labor union in the history of the world. Not only that, we got Walter H. Dyer High School for the Arts, the first open enrollment arts high school that Chicago has ever had on the South Side. This is a dude named Howard Tillman. He has the #1 tech innovation hub in the whole world. It's right here in Chicago. Yeah. And this guy is not of the community, but he's in the community at this school on 51st and King Drive called Dyer in Bronzeville. Got a tech program and an entrepreneurship program teaching young black kids how to own and run businesses. People got to come together. You know, we got to come together. We got to lead the way. Like, I helped open up the first open enrollment arts high school. The violence is down. Yeah. My brother helped begin After School Matters program at the A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter's Museum. The violence is down. My other brother, he began the African American Male Resource Center in Timbo, teaching and educating men of black origin at Chicago State. Violence is down. My girl, Rashana Baldwin with Teamwork Inglewood. Violence is down because we are taking a responsibility and creating opportunities for kids. My thing is, what we have to understand, bro, everything you do either come with two things, one or the other. It comes with consequence or it comes with reward. Always focus on reaping the reward, but keep in mind of the consequences of your acts, man. It's a good chance you will be okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love.
I know I was only there for a few days, and I've yet to be there in the winter, but Chicago has my heart. In those short days, I was able to see many facets of the city, even between their two famous baseball stadiums, Wrigley Field and Guaranteed Rate Field. Wrigley Field, which is on the north side, is continuously bustling with life, versus Guaranteed Rate Field on the south side, which, except for when there's a White Sox game, feels more lifeless and somewhat cold. If I'm gonna be honest, there's no excuse for the state of Southside Chicago. This city is too beautiful and the people too awesome to have people forced to live under the thumb of violence, drugs, and most importantly, economic scarcity that the people of Southside Chicago have to live under. I'm the biggest proponent of personal responsibility, but what I saw there wasn't simply the consequence of a lack of personal accountability. This is a deliberate negligence and mismanagement. This one episode didn't even scratch the surface of these issues. But I want and I hope to come back to dive deeper into this part of the city so we can take what we learned there and apply that insight to the rest of the country. Before you go, I want to tell you about the new drinkware that's available now at shop.mrcolionnoir.com. Besides keeping your drinks cold for 24 hours and hot for 12 hours, they also make for a great conversation starter, are incredibly durable, and just look damn good. So click the image in the top left corner of this video or the link in the description section to order your drinkware today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking the image on the bottom left portion of this video. Oh, and almost forgot. Go ahead and hit that bell symbol on the top right portion as well of this video and get notified when I release new videos. Noir out.